right, welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show, live from Washington, D.C., a special edition of the program here. Navigating some challenges, as you sometimes have when you're on the road. But glad to have you here. Greatly appreciate you being here with us. A lot to cover today. Three big things this hour. Number one, luxury pending home sales have fallen 10%, the lowest April level in over a decade. Stock market volatility sidelines the wealthy buyers. You've got that going for you. Number two, illegal immigration healthcare costs in California, triggering an intense debate. Gavin Newsom proposing a $100 monthly premium for illegals, while some Democrats suggest tax hikes. Of course they do. And number three, the attacks on Donald Trump from the left are shrill and ridiculous, frankly. Shrill and ridiculous. What do I mean by that? Well, Whoopi Goldberg went out on The View. I don't know why. The only time I see The View, do people actually watch this program? The only time I say that, the only time I see The View is when I have these ridiculous clips show up, right? Of the outrageous things that they say there. And having just been at West Point on Saturday and at Arlington National Cemetery on Monday for Memorial Day with the president at both stops, I have to say what Whoopi Goldberg said yesterday is so outrageous and absurd and stupid, frankly. We had to share it. Listen to this.
It's nice to see.
But it sounds like he's doing a set at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah. It was about time we heard him give the Gold Star families their due. It was about time he did that because he spoke and said, we're proud of our Gold Star families. This is the first time, at least maybe, unless you've heard him do it.
No, he's hosted them at the White House in his first term.
Right, but the last time we collectively heard him talking about Gold Star families, it was not positive.
Who could hear all that in the midst of all of that stuff?
I mean, I heard that because it was something that I needed to have him say.
I have no idea what she's talking about. She has no idea what she's talking about. She's completely wrong. Donald Trump has been a huge defender of Gold Star families and of the military, which is why when we were at West Point on Saturday, the reception was tremendous. And at Arlington, when he mentioned people like Shannon Kent, a young mother of two boys who was killed in action, they were there. They were 7 and 9 years old on Monday. They got a standing ovation because of Donald Trump. The idea that somehow he's not involved or doesn't say enough about Gold Star families is ludicrous. But it's nice to see that Whoopi's using the Ozempic, taking the jab. She's lost 100 pounds. Congratulations, Whoopi. Apparently shrunk your brain as well. Congratulations on that. Her brain not functioning particularly well, as she says Donald Trump needs to talk about Gold Star families. Donald Trump, there's a reason there's a huge surge in people volunteering for the United States military. There's a reason there's this huge surge in the United States military and people saying, we're on board. We're going to help fight for this country. Biggest numbers in years and years is because Donald Trump connects with the military, connects with this country, connects with working class people, connects with real Americans, connects with America first. Give me a break. These people are outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. All right. Meanwhile, the elites, like Whoopi, at places like Harvard, where they think the rules don't apply to them and they can have anti-Semitic gatherings and they can decide whether people, go places based on the color of their skin and so forth and have different graduations. These colleges doing this nonsense now. Well, Harvard has tens of billions of dollars in its endowment, tens of billions of dollars in its endowment. They're claiming Donald Trump is blocking federal dollars and illegal aliens, and they say it's an existential threat to Harvard. Well, let me get this straight. You have, $60 billion in your endowment, or was it more? It's a tremendous amount of money. And they're claiming that Donald Trump is an existential threat to them. Now, listen to this.
about what's going on, which is remarkable. Harvard is facing an existential, perhaps untenable crisis here. They've lost billions of dollars in funding for shared research. The latest action last week to block Harvard from enrolling international students. That's a quarter of its student body. In their lawsuit, Harvard explains this as without this group of students, Harvard is not Harvard. And to be facing this sort of crisis and not really understand what is happening around him, I think is pretty telling. What is the end goal here? I mean, the end goal here is to inflict maximum pain on Harvard. We've reported that there are people involved in this effort who set out wanting to topple a university to send a message, to have a scalp for the rest of academia, that this sort of unchecked liberalism that this administration sees happening on elite campuses around the country, it has to come to an end.
Yeah. To have a scalp. Look, the anti-Semitism, the elitist, the woke ideology, the DEI, the nonsense. I just saw a story on News Nation, by the way, and we're going to have this for you. We're going to look into this. Speaking of DEI and wokeism and racial quotas and so forth, black farmers, Hispanic farmers, people of color, given almost $1 billion in loan forgiveness by the Biden administration quietly. Whistleblowers now pointing this out. Almost $1 billion given in loan forgiveness. You didn't even have to have a crisis. You didn't have to be in distress on your loans. You just had to be black or Hispanic. No loan forgiveness for white men. No loan forgiveness for white men. Anybody else, step up to the pay window. Doesn't matter if you're in crisis or if you're flush with money. Doesn't matter. Step up to the pay window. 120% loan forgiveness. Meaning, I guess, that after the loan was paid off, that extra 20%, oh, here's a check. Have a nice day on the American taxpayer. $1 billion of loan forgiveness, but only for people that weren't white. It's not the way the country's supposed to work. It's just not the way the country is supposed to work. And frankly, I find it kind of outrageous, don't you? I really do. Did you know that they can steal your house? These thieves these days, they can steal your house. Scammers can literally sign paperwork, take your house away. The FBI calls it house stealing. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners just like you. Here's how it works. Criminals forge a signature on a document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, file it with your local recorder's office, and just like that, the title is out of your name and into theirs. Yep, it's true. Then they can take out loans on the equity you've built up by making your payments all these years. They can even sell the property behind your back. And the worst part is you don't even know about it until you start getting those nasty grams saying you owe money. Have you ever checked on your title? My answer was no, I never had. You should. No question. Here's what you get from Home Title Lock, the $1 million triple lock protection, immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes. And if fraud should happen, they'll spend $1 million getting your title restored to your name and in good standing. Go to HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code Gruber. It's a $250 value to have your title checked. It's free. Promo code Gruber. Go to HometitleLock.com. Promo code Gruber. Make sure your house is protected. I'll be right back. Struggling to lose weight no matter what you... All right, well, diving right back into it. I was on a podcast last night with my next guest. Um, had a good time as always. Tim Young's podcast. Tim runs his mouth. Yes, yes, he does. I can assure you. Sarah Parshall Perry joining me now, defending education's vice president. Sarah, nice to have you back on the program.
Steve, always great to be back. Thanks for having me.
You know, Steve runs his mouth too, by the way. Let's see. I've got so much to go through here. I'm going to start with this. We talked about this last night on the podcast. There are only two conservatives on this court, in my estimation, Thomas and Alito. That's it. I mean, the others are always suspect on any given. Of course, you got three that are certainly lefties, but only two conservative. People say it's a 6-3 conservative court. I don't believe that, and I don't believe that when I see cases like Liam Morrison. He's the kid that wore there are only two genders to a school in Massachusetts, refused to change his shirt. They tossed him out. Then he came back and said there are only, and then it was censored on his shirt, and they threw him out of school for that because he refused to change his shirt. I mean, and the Supreme Court, Samuel Alito called them cowards, wouldn't change it, right? What do you make of this?
Well, there's a lot that goes into a decision to grant cert in a case, right? So generally, you need four justices to be able to sign on to a case that they think is right for consideration. Whether or not that involves sort of a controversial social or cultural issue sometimes plays into the factor as well. And that's kind of what Justice Alito said here. Now, this case with Liam Morrison, this is an Alliance Defending Freedom case, and this case originates out of Massachusetts. It was a case called LM versus Middleborough. And when this young man was a middle school child, he was indeed tossed out of school for wearing a shirt that communicated a simple message that he believed there were only two genders. By the way, also a scientifically accurate belief, regardless of whether or not you're told about gender being on a spectrum. But he was actually sent home. Now, this, to my mind, is one of the worst travesties of a free speech principle we've ever seen in operation within a public school format. This is a young man who was doing nothing to disrupt anything around him, any of his classmates around him. There was no factual evidence in the record itself indicating that he had disrupted school. And of course, the Supreme Court said, listen, you can sort of stifle speech if it's going to be disruptive to the school day. Obviously, the public school paradigm works when we have order and discipline within public schools, but there was nothing in the factual record to indicate that.
So what would happen?
Quiet communication.
Yeah, what would happen if he wore a shirt that said, I don't know, Jesus is Lord? Would that be disruptive? A Christian message? Would that be unacceptable in this school in Massachusetts? And why would the Supreme Court not stand up and say, hey, of course he can have a shirt that says that. It's first grade science, biological dimorphism. But seriously, what else is restricted? Jesus is Lord, anything that's Christian, what?
Well, you're exactly right, Steve. There's no self-limiting principle here, right? When we communicate messages and we speak within our own personal capacity, and the Supreme Court's held over and over again that public school students do not relinquish their free speech rights at the schoolhouse door. They are allowed to communicate as well. They are still private citizens, and whether or not that communication is disruptive is really the only factor that they are allowed to take into consideration, because in all other aspects, children enjoy the same First Amendment freedoms that adults do. But you're right. If you can censor a child for wearing a shirt that says simply there are only two genders, and then there are only two censored genders, not once but twice this young man was sent home, what other messages cannot be communicated? Now, in some contexts, the Supreme Court said, okay, gang insignias, we don't want to allow to be populated within public schools. Why? Again, that's disruptive. We don't want emblems of violence, also disruptive. But a simple message communicated simply by wearing a t-shirt, an unspoken communication of what that individual believes, really, I think, boggles the mind. And Justice Alito was joined by Justice Thomas in this dissent from denial of cert in this particular case, really disappointed in the court, and said this is an issue of growing national importance. Children do not relinquish their speech rights at the schoolhouse door. We're going to have to deal with these complicated cultural issues.
But they didn't, of course. Hey, something else here, and this takes me back to Barack Obama, when he basically put all student loans into the government's hands, which never should have happened. But to me, maybe I'm jaded here, Sarah, but my opinion was then, and it is now, that created cash flow for the United States of America. You got millions and millions of people making monthly payments, creates a cash flow. the big corporations on Wall Street would love this. But now, because for the first time in 5 years, give or take, these kids have to pay their loan and keep the cash coming to the United States government. A lot of defaults, delinquencies are surging. I mean, no shock here, right? It went from 0.7% in the fourth quarter to 8% in the first quarter of this year. So it's up many times over. No surprise, is it?
Not at all. And this is what happens when you hide defaults and delinquencies onto millions of students' student loan debts. First of all, the student loan sort of industrial complex has been in need of reform for a really long time. We understand that college is too expensive, and we also understand that the government is giving us money to pay for college at too expensive a rate. This is going to be a problem that's only going to get worse unless someone stands in the gap and says, we've got to reform the entire higher education paradigm, how much it costs, what the degrees are actually worth, and how we're getting kids to pay for them.
Well, now, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Because
what
of course,
are they worth?
how
Which
far
brings in my solution. My
no
solution for this problem
degrees.
is you make these universities and colleges co-signers on that loan. If 5 years down the line or whatever period of time down the line, they have not produced the income as promised, they sold the student that bill of goods, they should be the co-signers on that loan. I mean, Harvard's got what, 60, 80 billion dollars in endowment? They all have endowments. Back up your piece of paper, guarantee it. Of course, they would freak out, wouldn't they?
That's
I'll give
exactly
you the last
it.
word.
No, and now we've got millions that are being flooded into payments of student loan debt that are leaving the economy. So naturally there's going to be a rebound effect, but we are talking billions of dollars now in default. It is unconscionable. This is what we had from the Biden administration. Just yesterday, Secretary McMahon at Department of Education said, in case you guys are wondering, you've got to pay back all your loans.
Yeah, if you're wondering, you signed it, but people pay their loans a minimum amount year after year after year. The principal never goes down. They've created a system that it's unworkable. Anyhow, Sarah Parshall Perry, we'll talk about that next time. Defending Education's Vice President. Sarah, always nice to see you.
You as well, Steve. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show live from Washington, D.C. Well, for the folks that have money, they're not spending that money on new fancy homes, I'll tell you that. They're not. The luxury pending home sales have fallen 10% to the lowest April level in over a decade. Stock market volatility continues to play a role here. Stock market's done all right for the last, back in April, they're telling us, oh, it's going to be the worst market since 1932. Well, that didn't turn out to be true. Fear-mongering went nowhere. They were wrong again. But the typical U.S. luxury home sold for $1.34 million in April, up 6.5% from a year earlier, but down slightly from the record highs set in March. So a luxury home, $1.4 million. Non-luxury home prices grew 4.1% to a median price of $374,598. This is all according to Redfin, by the way. The luxury sales dropped 10%, largest decline by itself since August of 23. People just aren't willing to put up $1.2, $3, $4, $5 million or more for homes the way they have been in the past right now. So the luxury home inventory is big right now. If you're looking for a big home, if you're looking for $1 million palace or $1.5 million or whatever it might be, now might be your time. By the way, prices, the median sale price of luxury home, say in West Palm, 4.1 is the median. Half more, half less. Miami, $4.3 million. San Jose, California, $5.5 million. San Francisco's median price, just over $6 million for a house. Yeah, there you have it. So in some places, the house is a bit more than 1.4. Makes you wonder if you can even buy a house in San Francisco for $1.4 million, doesn't it? It does. Coming up, we're going to talk about the United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA. Rob Chadwick will be here. Concealed carry, firearms. That's right, coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. You know, I've been licensed to be a concealed carry Boulder in Michigan for a number of years now. I went through the classes. And by the way, I think the classes are a fine idea to make sure people know how to use the equipment that they have. I became a member of the United States Concealed Carry Association a number of years ago. They offer tremendous educational programs and training. I think that they're a terrific operation. Rob Chadwick is an accomplished federal law enforcement officer and training leader, serving as the Director of Education and Training for Delta Defense and the USCCA. Rob, welcome to the program.
Steve, so much, such a pleasure to be back with you. Thanks for having me on again.
Really appreciate it. Look, the USCCA is an operation that is focused on concealed carry. And look, in this day and age, has there ever been a more important time to protect yourself, to be armed? I don't think there has. What do you say?
No, you're exactly right, Steve. Unfortunately, we are living in truly unprecedented times with what's gone on the last several years with law enforcement. You know, post defund the police, we have certainly not recovered. This country may never recover from that. I'll call it a crisis in public safety. I was in the FBI. I was actually at Lafayette Park the day all that kicked off and saw firsthand the devastating effects that that movement has had and will continue to have on everyone's public safety, regardless of your politics. You still call 911 when you need help. And the fact is, Steve, that when the average citizen picks up the phone to call 911, it's taking the police at least twice as long to get to you as it used to just a few years ago. So, you know,
that's if they show up at all. Rob,
that's exactly
honest,
right.
That's to be fair. You know, look, they don't care about property crimes at all. I'm in D.C. And by the way, folks, I'm just here for the week. I'm not here permanently. I had some people asking. I'm just here covering the Capitol and the White House for a few days. I had stuff stolen right off Amazon, was delivered to my house. I got back to pick up my Amazon delivery. It wasn't there. It was gone. I guess this is common practice, just thieves and people. And then there was a guy, and I live in a pretty good neighborhood. I got this Airbnb. There's a junkie passed out on the sidewalk right in front of my Airbnb. And like I said, a decent neighborhood here in DC, not a bad neighborhood, pretty nice area actually. So these kinds of things and the threats to me, to you, to our families, to our kids, it just seems like it's more prevalent than it used to be. And I want to be a concealed carry person, right?
Well, the thing is, you have to have a plan. You have to accept reality, as you're talking about. It sounds like, you know, your observations are spot on. I grew up in D.C. I was a police officer there for the beginning of my career.
There you go.
And I have seen a marked decline in public safety there. And the reality is, you must accept this could happen. And then what are you going to do to keep yourself and your loved ones safe until help does arrive, to your point, if it does arrive? And then do you have the means and the capability and the proficiency to do so? It's not just I carry a gun, so therefore I'm safe. Do I have the confidence and the competence to use that weapon, whatever that weapon might be?
Right. So one of the reasons I was attracted to the United States Concealed Carry Association, to your operation, was the training that was available. You know, I'm not going to debate constitutional carry here and there. In Michigan, I have to go through a short training, a one-day training, have to be proficient with the weapon. I think that's good. I think you should know the equipment inside and out, in the dark, in the bright light, whatever it is. And that's some of the training you offer. So tell the folks about the training at the USCCA, the ways you can become more proficient, more capable with a handgun.
Well, thanks, Steve. Yeah, the USCCA is all about training and education. We have over 8,000 instructors around the country. We're offering thousands of free classes literally every single month in almost every corner of the country. And I would encourage you just to check out our website. There are literally hundreds of classes going on every single day, ranging from, again, how to use your weapon, how to use a pistol, to how to use a carbine, to how to prepare yourself for first aid, or how to build an emergency go bag. Anything you might think of to keep yourself and your family safe, I promise you we have a class and some training available for you to do that.
Heck, I didn't even know you had go bag training. Now that's interesting to me. What would you put in the bag? What should go with you? What should, you have if you got to run in case of emergency? Look, you never know what might happen. The power could be out. A tornado could come through. There could be chaos in your neighborhood for a variety of reasons. What do you have? What do you need to throw in the car? I think that's great. And like you said, most of these classes are free, right?
That's correct. We've partnered with great industry partners like 511, the stores there. We will see
Right.
classes hosted in store by a USCCA licensed instructor, and they'll guide you through. Again, to your point, to building a go bag. You never know when services might go down. You might be without for say 24, 72, maybe a week. You have to have those supplies, and this type of training will just kind of guide you through it without causing anxiety or fear, or sometimes it's
Right.
intimidating to go to a class like that. And my job as the director of education and training is to make sure our instructors provide that welcoming environment for anyone who is just looking to make themselves a little bit safer.
So maybe you've seen this as well, Rob. What I see out there, the biggest surge in those that want to have the ability to carry concealed, whether they need a license or a constitutional carry, whatever it might be. Women are leading the charge for concealed carry, aren't they?
Well, Steve, the fact is that the firearm is the one tool that literally levels the playing field between, and I'll say the weaker or the stronger, right? Someone who is a little bit more
Yeah.
physically capable. A firearm is that one implement, if you know how to use it properly and have access to it. And thank goodness for the Second Amendment, and thank goodness for being an American citizen. That gives you access to that one tool that levels the playing field for us. And so I hate the fact that people live under the tyranny of fear, and that's why the USCCA exists, is to provide access to training, education, self-defense, liability insurance in case you ever do have to use that weapon. But that one piece of mind, that piece of equipment that you have access to, that would prevent a catastrophic incident if someone were to kick in your back door. Now what are you going to do, especially now that again we're under this crisis in public safety with police response times?
So tell the folks, Rob, because I've been a member for a number of years, and again, I was attracted because I saw, well, we got some cool free gifts when we joined, but really it was the training. And some of those gifts were for training, so you could continue to be proficient, be familiar with the weapon. You want muscle memory at that point. If something bad happens, you want to make sure you are up to speed and you've used it plenty. Where can people find out more about the United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA?
Well, the best place to start, Steve, is uscca.com. There's a little search window there that'll indicate, live training, whether it's in person or online training. We have literally thousands of hours of classes available for our members on our Protector Academy. That's part of your member benefit. And we also have literally hundreds of videos for free available on YouTube. So if you go on YouTube and search USCCA and then subscribe to that, you'll see lots of really high quality videos with some of the most recognized industry experts out there, providing that practical advice. This is not like your gun tube stuff. It's very sensational. This is practical advice and training on how to keep yourself
Right.
and your loved ones safe.
Rob Chadwick, really appreciate you being here. United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA.com. And no, they're not a sponsor. I just like what they're doing, folks. I just like what they're doing. Rob, thank you for being here.
Steve, thanks for being a member and appreciate what you do for the country.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a break. I am live in D.C. Some people have been asking, is it permanent? No, but it's going to be more frequent. I can tell you that. Getting a hard pass for the White House next week, which means I'll have more access and more ability to tell you what's going on. Be right back.
What's CBD? Well, I can tell you this. CBD is not about getting
Behavioral health, mental health. Man, ever since COVID, it just seems like things got just out of whack in a lot of ways, isn't it? My next guest spends his time there. Dan Sharon is My Care Council Executive Director. My Care Council is elevating awareness for behavioral health reform. You know, in this country, we got rid of a lot of our behavioral health institutions back when I was a lot younger. Dan, thank you for being here on the program. Reform is, I think, necessary. And you're right there on the front lines with My Care Council. First of all, what does My Care Council tell the folks, if you would, please?
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having us on. The My Care Council is a statewide association of behavioral health and social service providers in the state of Michigan. Providers are those people providing services in the communities, in our neighborhoods every single day. And so we created an association to raise awareness and to help bring more services and open up access to people in the state of Michigan.
Let me start with the basics. Are there enough people doing what you do? Are there enough people in the field? Are there enough offices? Are there enough therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists? Are there enough people trying to help out?
Unfortunately, there's never enough. Like many industries, we need more people in the workforce, especially in behavioral health and addiction services. Unfortunately, the need continues to rise. We're all impacted by someone facing a behavioral health issue, facing addiction issues. And there's not enough people in our rural communities, in our urban communities, and throughout the state, and actually across the country. There's a great need for more people in the industry.
Yeah, it's not unique. I was just, I don't know if you heard me talking about this just in the last segment here on the program. I walked out of my Airbnb here in a pretty nice neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Nothing wrong with where I am. Not too far from Logan's Circle, if that gives anybody some perspective. And there's a guy obviously whacked out on drugs of some sort, you know, stumbling around and then lays down and takes a nap right there on the sidewalk in front of my Airbnb. And totally oblivious to the world around him. People are coming by and walking and cars honking and this, and doesn't stir. And that's just sad. I don't remember seeing stuff like that when I was growing up.
Yeah, well, I know it's probably, you see it a lot walking the streets in Washington, D.C., and we're a little bit more spread out here in Michigan. But, you know, when people are able to access the system of care, they are able to get the care they need to succeed. And so the problem is that there is thousands of people going untreated. In fact, 40% of Michiganders who know they have a problem aren't getting the treatment they need, in large part because they don't have the staff to handle the influx of care, but also because people aren't getting into the system. They're not able to access it due to workforce issues, a lot of problems in getting access in terms of waiting in line to get the care they need, and due to a lot of the administrative burdens that our providers face here in Michigan.
So when you talk about behavioral health reform, Dan, what are you hoping for? What are you looking for? What do you think could be done to improve the system and accessibility, which is one of the things we've talked about from the top here, accessibility to get people the kind of attention they need, whether it's talking to a professional, potentially getting pharmaceuticals, whatever it might be. What kind of reform are we talking about?
Well, let's start with the basics in terms of helping the underserved communities here in Michigan. Is that behavioral health is complicated. It's one of the largest items of our state budget. We get a majority of funding from the federal government. That funding is given to the state, and the state then delivers it to 10 PIHPs, which are organizations that are charged with distributing the funding. And then those 10 PIHPs distributed to 46 community mental health organizations throughout the state. And then they drop that funding to the community providers that I work with. And so by the time that funding gets to the community level, to the neighborhoods, it's already diluted. It's already going to many different places, focused on administrative issues from these other organizations, and so forth. And so not only is behavioral health complicated, it's messy. And more funding needs to get to the communities where it's needed most, like in Logan Square there in Washington. And so the state is looking to consolidate that structure. It's looking to make government more efficient and more simple so that the funds could get to where it's needed most instead of being wasted in an administrative morass.
Boy, we do a lot of that, don't we? A lot of inefficiency in all the systems. Money just gets chewed up. God only knows where. We've got $5 trillion, I just read, completely unaccounted for from the United States Treasury. They don't even know what it was spent on. Wouldn't it be nice if some of that had been spent on mental health and trying to get people back on their feet and rehabilitated, being productive members of society? Look, we all saw it coming out of COVID. Young people, anxiety, depression, all those things. And I think a lot of them have pulled through it. But then again, you've got people that it's generational what we did at COVID. I think we made a lot of mistakes there, and I think it's time to move forward. I'll give you the last word there.
Well, as you know, it is generation. It's not generational. It's a problem that's been existing in our world for centuries, and now we're finally have an opportunity to change the system for the better here in Michigan, and for Michigan to be once again a leader on these policy issues facing our communities. And so this is really a moment in time for the state of Michigan to focus on improving behavioral health and the way that system is delivered and how people are able to access that system so that we can get the care to those kids in school, to our parents, to our seniors, to our veterans, to the people on the streets, and
Sure.
and to get where they need it. So, this is a rare opportunity for the state of Michigan, and I hope we seize it.
And I hope we do. Dan Sharon, thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate that. He is the executive director of the My Care Council. That's MI Care Council. Dan, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Can't fix the problems if you're not aware of them. So sometimes we just got to put a spotlight on it and say, here's what we need to work on. When we come back, we'll work on sports with Brock. All right, time to check in on sports with my good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Indiana Pacers are one win away from the NBA Finals as they held off the New York Knicks 130-121 to take Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals last night in Indianapolis. Tyrese Halliburton had a triple-double, 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 15 assists, while Pascal Siakam had 30 points. Pacers lead the series 3-1. Game 5 is tomorrow night in New York. The Edmonton Oilers are one win away from the Stanley Cup Final as they defeated the Dallas Stars 4-1 to take Game 4 of the NHL's Western Conference Finals last night in Edmonton. Leon Draisaitl and Corey Perry each had a goal and an assist for the Oilers, who lead the series 3-1. Game 5 is tomorrow night in Dallas. In Major League Baseball, a full schedule last night. American League winners included the New York Yankees, Detroit, and Seattle. National League winners included Philadelphia, the Chicago Cubs, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? How they've extended these seasons over and over and over. Hockey is played in the middle of summer in the NBA Finals. I mean, will they get to it before the 4th of July? I don't know. It seems like they play forever and ever and ever. I think that has a lot to do with Las Vegas and betting and gambling sites. Maybe I'm just jaded. All right? Maybe. Anyhow. Let's see here. What do we got coming up in the next hour? We got a lot coming up still as we continue on this program for today. I'm just, when I'm out of my regular studio, it's just a little bit out of sorts for me, as you can imagine. And now I put my rundown somewhere and I don't even know where. Ah, there it is. Ron Rademacher. That's what it's going to be. It's Wednesday. I can figure that out. I should have been able to figure that out. Anyhow, when you get out of your studio, for the regular studio, out of Studio G and out here into the big wide open, it can be a little more confusing. But let me tell you something. Educational. Big trip coming up on Friday. The president going to Pittsburgh. We'll be reporting for you live there and covering it for you. Having access, hard pass to the White House. It's a real privilege. Glad to have it. That comes in next week officially, so I'll be back in Washington for a day or two next week as well. Access to the most important action of the day, every day, right here on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be back in a moment. All right, welcome back to Washington, D.C. Always an adventure. Now that I'm here, got a lot going on, and it's terrific, is what it is, being here. Anyhow, nice to see you here on the program. Three big things we're going to cover this hour. Number one, the COVID vaccine now not recommended for kids and pregnant women. That's a big change. Number two, Donald Trump is warning both Putin and Zelensky, stop killing each other. Let's get this war taken care of and under control. And number three, just covering Washington for me. It's been a real privilege, and I'll be here for the rest of the week. And no, I'm not here permanently for those of you asking the question. But the access is terrific. Here, picture the White House behind me. Normally we'd be at the White House potentially, but it's pouring rain in Washington at this hour. So it's a facsimile of the White House behind me. It's a lovely angle. It's the angle that we have from what they call Pebble Beach. When you see, and somebody should explain this to some of you, when you see the White House, like you see in the image here behind me, and you see the network news people, myself included, doing live shots, it's this sidewalk that's on the edge here. And so back this way to my right would be where you come into the grounds through security, and we have to have several levels of security to get in, as you can imagine. Security's tight. Then you get on this lane here called Pebble Beach, where you have all these tents that were put in by George W. Bush. All these tents were put in for the networks to broadcast live from, all the networks, ourselves included. And so we'll have regular access to this area. Just to the right of this image is the West Wing, where the Oval Office is, and where Caroline Leavitt's office is, the communications office, the James Brady press room, where you see the daily briefings when they do those. It's all held right here on the grounds of the White House. And they only give the pre-cleared credentials every few weeks, and that's why I have to come back in to Washington, D.C. midweek next week, because I've been through all the background checks. I mean, I know it's remarkable, but I have passed all the background checks, and I'm going to have clearance to be on the White House grounds whenever the White House grounds are open, and they have certain hours like any place else. I think you can come in at 5 in the morning is the earliest you can come in. I'll have to double check that, but now you know. All right, so one of the things Donald Trump has been talking about over the last week, they had the prime minister, I guess, of South Africa in the Oval Office, and there was a lot of debate about whether or not there was a white genocide, whether white farmers in South Africa are being targeted and are being killed. And the fact of the matter is, I can tell you, I was in South Africa a number of years ago. It was happening then, and it's been going on ever since. Is it a genocide? I'm not sure that's the proper word, but is it an assault on the farmers and a violent attack on the whites in South Africa that represent about 7.5% of the population? The answer is simply yes. The answer is simply yes. So Julius Malema is the leader of the South African Marxist Party, communist, I guess a fair way to put it as well. He says, and he's the guy that goes out there and says, kill the Boer. And the Boer is the white man. The Boer is the Dutch descendant, B-O-E-R, the Boers, right? Kill the Boer, kill the farmer. That's the same, that's kill the white people. And he has been saying it for quite some time. He says he is not intimidated, by the way, by Donald Trump. He just said this yesterday. Listen.
Comrades, we must defend our country against imperialism. The only organization that is hated by imperialists is the EFF. I will never be intimidated by America. I will never be intimidated by Donald Trump. They were speaking about me in that meeting at White House. If they were not gossiping about me, they should have called me into that meeting. I would have answered everything that Donald Trump wanted from us. Donald Trump said to him, when you say farmers, you mean white people. He kept quiet. Farmers do not mean white people. They are black farmers. They are white farmers. Ramaphosa is a farmer himself. He should have said to Donald Trump, no, farmers are not white. I'm a farmer myself. I am not white. Why didn't he present that simple fact before Donald Trump? There is no
Yeah.
white genocide in South Africa. Bambonchatila with crosses. He opens his eyes in shock. I know South Africa with my eyes closed. He's unable to tell Donald Trump that is not a picture of South Africa. This picture does not belong to us. We don't have mass graves. We don't have mass graves of white people in South Africa.
That is a man who has said on numerous occasions, kill the boer, kill the farmer, shoot, shoot, shoot. And he said in interviews, when asked directly, do you talk about killing white people? Not yet. Not at this time. He is a man who wants a revolution. Thankfully, his party has been pushed back. And thankfully, my colleague Brian Glenn was able to get the South African president to denounce that, to denounce the killing of whites and white farmers. Thankfully, he was able to get that done, which was remarkable. Speaking of communists and socialists, Mark Carney, oh boy, is this guy a treat up north in Canada, the new prime minister there. A guy who believes that climate change is the existential threat still. No wonder Alberta is going to take a referendum vote next year on independence. No wonder Alberta is moving in that direction. No wonder they're like, what are you doing? And the New York Times and others call Mark Carney a centrist. A centrist? By no stretch of the imagination is Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, a centrist. He is a far-left activist. If you want more proof, listen to this.
Look, there is some stress, and it's great that there is that. It's not great that it happens, but it's great that there's that scrutiny and there's that skepticism or healthy skepticism about ESG labels or sustainable labels. And that, again, is one of the reasons we're having this ruthless, relentless focus on net zero, because in the end, look, we can't stabilize the climate unless we get to net zero. And it's a simple, these are hard numbers. Your emissions are either A or B. They're going up or down. And if they're going down, are they going down consistent with the science? We anchor it in the science, the same science the UN and others use for the 1.5 degree objective.
Remarkable, isn't he? He's a centrist. Yeah. And I'm the Pope. By the way, this part of the program brought to you by Exodus. If you're tired of being in pain every single day, try ExodusNow.com. Introducing the Exodus, a natural, holistic supplement that combines 2,000 years of ancient wisdom with modern science. 7 biblical ingredients, including frankincense, myrrh, cumin, paired with the groundbreaking benefits of molecular hydrogen. It is designed to soothe joint and muscle discomfort, boost your energy, reduce inflammation, get rid of that brain fog. Man, I love this product. I do. If you're living with chronic inflammation, you're not alone, but you do not have to suffer anymore. Try Exodus now. Try ExodusNow.com. And you can find out more. Try ExodusNow.com. You want to get rid of that brain fog? Boom. Here it is, folks. All right. Time now to check in with Ron Rademacher. He's up after the break right here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. As I sit here in Washington, enjoy the rain. I don't know what the weather's like in Michigan, but my next guest knows what it's like: rain, shine, sleet, hail. He'll put up with all of it. He's a madman, a madman across the water. Ron Rademacher, everybody, travel writer, author, speaker, storyteller, and a good friend of this program. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you over there in Washington?
I'm lovely. I'm lovely. I do. And I mean, I've been to the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. I love it. I went to Ford's Theater for the first time a couple of days ago. And boy, where the action happened. It's interesting. There are some remarkable things to do around here. I want to go over to Mount Vernon, and I want to go to Monticello, but I'll do that later. Monticello's, a 2-hour drive to Charlottesville, but Mount Vernon, where Washington lived, I'd like to see that at some point. And of course, I was at Arlington National Cemetery with the president on Monday, which was a very stirring event. So it's been a good visit, to say the least.
Yeah, that National Museum of Natural History, I've been there many times.
Man, it's awesome.
It takes you forever just to get through that building.
It's awesome.
If anyone who lives within an hour or two of the Smithsonian and has not taken time to go down and at least visit that, you want to do it. You want to do it.
It's worth
Fantastic.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so what's happening?
So we got a couple of shout outs. I was at Houghton Lake over Memorial Day weekend. Brian from Mattawan came by to say hello. He listens all the time. Hey, Brian. And Martin Church from Ypsilanti was up there, and we talked about morel mushrooms, and they would like to see some pictures of where, a map to where you're finding so many. So if you get a chance to put that up, Steve, those guys.
Push pins. Yeah, I'll put push pins on the map. Yeah.
And I've got some bad news out of the Upper Peninsula. I usually don't like bad news, but I have to announce this. The Forest Lake State Forest Campground is now closed to the public. Now, this is my favorite campground. It's a rustic campground, favorite one in the entire Upper Peninsula. Beautiful. Why my favorite, or why is it closed? Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you both. It's my favorite because of you're in the forest, and I always like to go in the fall so you can smell the trees and the colors, and the fishing for walleye and pike was second to none. Big campsites. It has been closed because that lake is formed by an impoundment. It's formed by a hydroelectric dam. And the operators of that dam for 70 years have always operated the campground. They informed the DNR that they're not going to do that anymore. I don't have the details on that. But as of Monday, the DNR has closed the Forest Lake State Forest Campground. So all you guys that we used to all go up there, because, you can't make reservations at these kinds of campgrounds. You just show up. So it's closed. And I'll tell you this, Steve. This is one of those carpe diem moments. I thought about going last fall because I hadn't been there in a couple of years to tent camp. And I thought, no, I'll just do it next year. I'm kind of busy. Now I will probably never get to go again. So if there's someplace you want to go, folks, seize the day and go. Do it.
Carpe diem.
Because you don't know what can happen. And now that one's gone forever.
Look, hold on. I'll go rogue. We can put backpacks on. We can find the topographical map. We'll go in there. We'll throw it. What are they going to do? Beat us?
Well, there's other access, but there was nothing like having the campground right on your campsite, right on the lake. Bring your boat around, sit it there, get up at dawn. Nothing. There's just nothing like that. So, there'll be other ways to get in there. But anyway, that one's gone. So we got a lot of other good stuff going on. The Aldo Leopold Festival is happening in the Les Chenaux area. For those who don't know where the Les Chenaux Islands are, that is north of the bridge, and you go east toward Hessel and Cedarville. One of the best nature-oriented festivals. They've got paddling excursions out to the islands, orchid and wildflower tours, birding trips, lots of presentations. That's this coming weekend. And the Cruising Classics car show at the UP State Fairgrounds is going on in Escanaba. Now, Steve, I'm going to go one more Upper Peninsula because I know that you are without notes today, so I'm just going to rattle on. I've not been to Kinross in a while. That's up in the UP. There used to be an Air Force base there. The Chippewa County Fairgrounds is having their Upper Peninsula Horsemen's Association show. And the interesting thing about this show is it's a high-level horse show, but it's open to all riders of all ages. If you've got the equipment and you've passed the training and you have the safety, training necessary. You can go, you can compete. Really a great show. Well done for those of you who are equestrians. So that's what's going on in the Upper Peninsula. Would you like to hear about the Lower Peninsula, Steve?
Well, I would, but I have a question. You had mentioned morels earlier about push pins of the map, which I'm all for, by the way. When people put push pins of the map and tell me where the morels are, I'm all for that. Do they get morels in the UP?
They do have morels in the UP. They sure do. And I'll tell you what else they have. And we used to always get them at that campground I was talking about, is hen of the woods and turkey of the woods grew in profusion in that part. And it was rare that we couldn't find a 12-year-old boy to shinny up the tree because they'd be 20 feet off the ground, and so you had to have you get your little brother to go up there. Yeah, they do. Yeah, there's morels up there. You just got to know where to go. And mushrooming is fantastic in some of those, if you know the right campgrounds to go to that are really rustic and you have to get back in there and there's only 4 sites and all that, the mushroom is fantastic because of the moist conditions. Some of those are almost like northern rainforest. Terrific.
Well, because I would think, we've been getting morels, since late April, but I would think in the UP where spring comes later, now would be the time to be there. I mean, I'm clearly no expert on morels, but I would think that now would not be a bad time.
I was not going to point out your expertise on morels. I'm glad you did that for me.
I don't have any.
When they pinpoint up there where the morels are, it's just like when on my website I point out a good place to go fishing. If I put a fishing spot on there, you're pretty well guaranteed it's about 25 miles off of the actual spot.
Right.
I don't need ID to go up there and clean out my fishing hole.
You got an extra minute today, Ron? I mean, I'm going to have to hold you through the break and we got to get a couple things for the Lower Peninsula. All right, hold that thought.
Yeah, we got to do that. You betcha.
For those of you on the stream, you notice Ron over his right shoulder has what looks like a jug of white lightning. I don't know. I mean, I'm just calling it out for what I'm seeing. Look at that nice new graphic. Anthony put a nice new streaming graphic up there. Anthony, nicely done. I like that one. Very, very attractive. Well done. Speaking of very attractive and well done, Ron Rademacher is still here. Ron, let's go to the Lower Peninsula.
Pretty much well done. By the way, let's this jug you can see there, the brewery. I went to the Blasket Islands in off the coast of Ireland many, many years ago and bought that jug. It's the only souvenir I bought the whole time I was in Ireland. Unfortunately, I bought it on the second day of a 2-week trip, so I had to lug it with me. And then I was afraid to check out the airplane, so I had to lug it with me. So it's one of the few artifacts of my travels from overseas that actually survived all the moves and the travails. Lower Peninsula. Okay, listen. If you're going to be in the Grand Rapids area this weekend, our hometown boy who has made incredibly good, Emmy winner, etc., Billy Strings, will be at the Van Andel Arena.
Very nice.
I'm not going to be able to get there, but all of us who grew up with that guy are amazed at what he has done and what he has become, and it's all been from the combination of work and talent, very much like you, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's all right. Billy Strings is going to be there. If you're down in the southern part of the state, the Kensington Metro Nature Center in Milford has birding for beginners. One of the fastest growing outdoor sports is birding, and that's May 31st. And for you fishermen, who want to compete with the big boys, the Payback Bass Fishing Tournament takes place in Indian River. And this one's open to everyone. There's a 5-fish limit. So if you got a boat and you got a dream, show up in Indian River. I believe there's a $5,000 first place, and it's on Burt and Mullet Lakes. And
Those
that's
are
what's going on
beautiful
in the
lakes,
lower
aren't they?
lakes.
Yeah, beautiful lakes.
They are gorgeous.
Ron
Don't fall
Rademacher,
anytime
I
you
always
call.
appreciate you. Thank you. I guess it was not a jug of white lightning. I was mistaken, you know. But I can see you have a VHS player back there, also destined for the Smithsonian. Anyhow.
Oh, yeah, high tech. We're very high tech here. Thank you.
Yes. Ron, greatly appreciate it. MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. You can have your festival, your campground, your morel mushroom spot exposed for the world to know about it right there at MichiganBackroads.com. Get a hold of Ron. Ron, thank you.
Steve, enjoy visiting sites in D.C. Say hello to the president for me with you. We're all pulling for him out here.
Don, Ron said hi. I'll do it. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi.
All right, back to it now. Look, I've been hearing lots of rumors about what's going on in China. Some of those rumors are threats to South Korea. South Korea's governmental structure seems to be in a bit of peril, but Xi Jinping seems to be in more peril. I keep hearing rumors and stories that he is at a weakened state, and so I want to bring in Gordon G. Chang. He is my go-to when it's time to talk about China. Gordon, good morning. And by the way, if you want to follow Gordon, go follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang. That way you can keep up with all the latest information. Gordon, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve.
Let's talk about this. We started in the break, but these are the things I've been hearing from my friends at the Epic Times. We talked about that a little bit. They think that Xi has had a health concern sometime in the last year, that he doesn't have the iron grip control that he had a couple of years ago, that he has had throughout his entire leadership of China, that he's in a compromised position potentially. What are your thoughts? Is this rumor? Is this based in fact? You're my go-to. What can you tell me?
First of all, I think Xi Jinping has lost a lot of influence or maybe even control of the military. His top two loyalists have disappeared from public view, especially General He Weidong, who has not been seen since March 11th. There are stories, unconfirmed, that General He and another Xi Jinping loyalist have been suicided, that both of them died in the 301 military hospital in Beijing this month. That we don't know. But the fact that they haven't been seen in public, it almost doesn't matter, because the fact they have not been seen in public suggests that they have been shuffled off to the side. And that means Xi Jinping's adversaries are in control of the military. We know this, Steve, because since July 9th of last year, there have been 3 articles in PLA Daily, which is the main propaganda organ of the Chinese military, that praise, quote unquote, collective leadership. That is a direct slap at Xi Jinping's one-man rule. So we think, or I think, that there are real problems in the military right now.
Right.
With regard to civilian leadership, there are reports that he is in much trouble, but they are totally unconfirmed. They make sense, but we have no confirmation of them.
So let's talk about this for a second. Let's sort this out for a minute, because you and I have talked about this for years, literally. He spent his time on his ascent by eliminating the competition. We saw people taken right out of the the big gatherings, the committee meetings, just picked up and let out of the room right there in front of everybody to make an example of people that you don't cross Xi. But he has lost his grip on that power. I mean, and so if these two generals went to the military hospital and did not return, I mean, you have to be careful where your loyalties lie in a dictatorship, because if things shift, you get suicided, as you put it. What do you think Xi is right now? Is he compromised? Does he not have control over the military? Is he in real peril? And if he leaves, is there any clear successor?
There's no clear successor, and that's because Xi Jinping has made sure there isn't one. When Xi Jinping became General Party Secretary in 2012, in other words, China's ruler, there was norms, guidelines on succession. They were rules. Xi Jinping has jumped all of them, and he's made sure that there is nobody who could clearly step in. So there would be chaos if Xi Jinping were to fall for some reason. My general sense is that the military would declare martial law to maintain order, but that would only be a temporary solution. So really right now, there is a lot of uncertainty with regard to China.
Let me ask you this,
Xi
Gordon,
Jinping,
because I want to ask you this, because I think this is important for people to understand the structure of the nation of China. The vast majority of ordinary Chinese citizens are not members of the Chinese Communist Party. My understanding is the Chinese Communist Party represents maybe, and I'm being going to the high end here, being generous, 100 million. And it's a nation of more than 1 billion people. So less than 10% of the people there actually belong to the Chinese Communist Party, yet it rules with an iron fist. Is that accurate?
that's accurate. I mean, there's the regime reports there's 1.4 billion people. Probably there's 1.3 billion, but you're right. The number of people in the Communist Party is just a shade under 100 million. And most of the party members are there for career advancement, not inside the party, but in their own jobs. So when you talk about core Communist Party members, it's a lot less. And right now, there is a lot of disenchantment inside the party with Xi Jinping for the reason you pointed out. He grabbed power from everybody else. That means he ends up with accountability, nobody else to blame. When things go well for China, that's great being Xi Jinping, but now things are going very badly for the country. So Xi Jinping is getting a lot of blame. And that's, I think, main reason for his problems in the political system.
Yeah. So when I look at the economy, prior to Donald Trump taking office and prior to Donald Trump issuing these tariffs and going head to head with the Chinese economy, there were already rumors of slowdowns at production facilities, factories, and so forth. Shifts were not full time, overtime didn't really exist. And then Donald Trump comes along and issues these tariffs, creating more economic headwinds for China and factories being closed, if you will. The locals, the natives are getting restless, as they say. Is there truth to that? Because from everything I can ascertain and glean is that these tariffs from Trump have created additional problems for dictator
Yeah,
Xi.
you accurately described that. Before Trump took his second oath of office, the Chinese economy was stumbling along, maybe 1% growth, maybe zero, we don't know. Now it's clearly contracting, and we see this from price data for February, March, and April, which shows countries in a deflationary spiral. Deflation is an economy killer. So I don't think the Chinese economy is growing anywhere near the 5.4% pace that they report for the first quarter. I think it's below zero. But the point is, you're right, the Chinese people are angry. You have these protests because, as you say, people aren't getting paid. Also, this is really interesting, and that is that there's one guy now known as Brother 800, and he burned down the factory where he worked. Now, in every society, you have malcontents. But what happened is in China, this guy who burned down his factory has become a national hero, which shows you the breadth of discontent across Chinese society.
Brother 800, what he's the Chinese version of John Galt, is what you just told me, in many regards. Gordon, I want you to hold the thought right there because I've got some other questions I have about what's going on because we haven't gotten to the North Korean question yet, and I'd like to get to that. So I want to hold you through the break, and I know you've got a little bit of extra time here today. Gordon G. Chang with us. Again, if you want to keep up everything that's going on in China, follow him on X, if you still call it Twitter like I do, at Gordon G. Chang. Follow me there too today, by the way. We've got a movement going on, but Gordon is always on top. He has great sources and great information. And look, China is our biggest adversary. We need to know what they're doing. We need to know if President Xi is going to go out, who comes in. Remember, it's the devil you know for the devil you don't. Be careful what you wish for. More with Gordon G. Chang after the break right here on The Steve Gruber Show. right, back now with Gordon G. Chang. Again, follow him on X. If you want to keep up with everything that's going on and you want to make sure that you understand our biggest adversary on the planet and things are going on, you stay with Gordon. Gordon, thank you for being here. Look, another rumor, and I don't know the veracity of this, so I want to ask you about this. And that is that the Chinese have not told the truth in recent months about how many people they actually lost to the COVID pandemic. And in fact, there could be more illness in the country right now. I've had people tell me it's millions of people have died in China from COVID that has gone unreported because they don't want to admit it. What kind of numbers are you hearing? What do you think the truth is?
Yeah, we don't really have visibility into that. The number is much larger than China reports, but where it is, we just don't know at this point. But we have some good numbers about what the number of people who have died outside China, and that gives us a real sense of what it is like inside. So outside China, 7 million people perish from this disease, according to official numbers. Some people say a little bit less, but it's in that neighborhood. That includes 1.2 million Americans. So the number in China is over 1 million. And so we're talking about a disease which is like 8 or so million people, maybe 9. The other thing is that we've got a new strain of COVID-19 in China right now, outbreaks in the mainland itself and in Hong Kong. We have a few cases in the United States. This is probably a much weaker disease. It's going to be sort of like the flu, not like it was last time. But it is nonetheless with us because it's now become part of society everywhere.
Yeah. I guess we'll just try to keep an eye on it and glean the best numbers we can. Now, on to South Korea. Any of the countries that live in Southeast Asia, South Korea, Vietnam, these countries all live in the shadow of China, without question. But there seems to be a lot of weakness in the Republic of Korea right now, South Korea specifically, that some are wondering, will China impose its will outright on a country that has been an American ally, that has been an industrial and economic powerhouse? There's a lot of red flags, some warning signs here, aren't there?
They certainly are. There is a snap presidential election on June 3. This follows the impeachment and removal of President Yoon Suk Yeol. He was removed because he declared martial law on December 3. He declared martial law because the leftists had paralyzed the government with about 36 impeachments of officials. And the leftists are ruthless and determined. South Korea has had leftist presidents before, and we've gotten through them. But the leftist who is on the ballot now, who is, by the way, ahead by a healthy margin, Lee Jae-myung, is more ruthless. He is more determined. He is more pro-China, more pro-North Korea, more anti-America than previous leftists who have had power in South Korea. So we got to be worried about this. Yi is now trying to run as a moderate, but he has a record, and we know that the things that he said about us and about freedom in general. Yes, we got to really be concerned because he does have a record of being submissive to Beijing.
Yeah. I guess my takeaway from the conversation today, a few different things. First of all, you would not be surprised if Chairman Xi was no longer in charge of the CCP, therefore no longer in charge of China. I mean, it could happen, and you would not be surprised. I would expect then a general would step forward. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out, but it's not an unlikely scenario. There are also some questions about whether his health is what it should be. The other thing, you would not be surprised if you ended up with a far-left government in South Korea that capitulated to Beijing. Again, they're right there in the shadow. I mean, these are all very uncertain things. Uncertainty breeds problems oftentimes. It can breed war. So this uncertainty is concerning, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And all of those things that you mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised at any of them. China's future right now is really up in the air. We don't know what will happen. I mean, this is really concerning because we can see some very disturbing trends. So we could see martial law. We could see a group of civilians take over. There are all sorts of things that can happen. But I'm really concerned about South Korea right now because of just the trends there. It's a very volatile populace at any time, the electorate. And so, you've got a determined leftist group that is going to try and seize power, because they tried to seize power when they were out of power. And they did it in the most damaging way to democracy. So democracy might not survive in South Korea. And we've got to be very supportive of our conservatives and patriots in South Korea.
We could end up seeing them arrive on our shores, couldn't we? We could see them fleeing. I mean, we've seen it before. It certainly could repeat itself. Gordon G. Chang, always appreciate your insight and your wisdom, sir. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it.
There you have it. All right. So, again, if you want to stay up with everything that Gordon keeps his eye on, at Gordon G. Chang on X, you can follow him there. And while you're at it, follow me there because, well, it's an important thing to do. This part of the program brought to you by 1775 Coffee. When I'm away from home, I miss it. I didn't bring it with me. Man, I should have. I can tell you 1775 Coffee is not mass-produced corporate nonsense. It's the highest quality coffee in the world, single origin, high altitude, hand-picked, and roasted for bold, uncompromising flavor. It's coffee that stands for something. Frankly, it's just damn good coffee. If you'd like to get on board with the coffee that we drink here at the morning show, well, go to 1775coffee.com/Gruber, 1775coffee.com/Gruber. You'll save 10%. And every time you spend money, you get entered to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. Wake up, stand for something, drink 1775 coffee, and maybe win a Cybertruck. I mean, that wouldn't be so bad, right? I mean, they're basically indestructible, which is kind of cool. When I come back, we're going to talk to Ivy for a moment. You don't want to miss this, a special day. Straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. Nice work, Anthony. It does look good, by the way. Thank you for that. All right. Have the sound effects ready, Anthony. There you go. Nicely done. All right. So I had to bring Ivy in. Normally she's here with me, but Gordon G. Chang talking about China is an important bit of information. But look at the birthday girl. There she is. She looks spectacular. I had to bring you in and say happy birthday, Ivy.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. It's been a wonderful morning of birthday wishes and cards.
Yeah, and you deserve every bit of it. So that's why I want to bring on and say happy birthday to my lovely wife, business partner, best friend, and terrific mom. All those things.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. It's very kind.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go spoil myself for the day. I'm taking the rest of the day off.
I doubt that. I know you too well.
Kidding.
You can't help yourself. You're going to be working all day. Go ahead, Anthony.
Me and Ivy are hitting the clubs tonight, Steve.
There isn't a club to be found in this town. Oh, my gosh.
The big clubs. The big clubs there in Lansing on a Wednesday. Woo! Anyhow, people have been asking me, Ivy. I'm not in D.C. permanently, but I'm going to be here more, and you're going to be here some. In fact, you just got a pass for the White House as well, so you'll be going there on occasion. I'll be coming here more. I'll be coming back next week, right? What's that?
I said I was a little suspect, passing that background check.
Yeah. That's a good outfit you got, by the way. I really like that.
Oh, thank you.
It's a good look,
Thank you.
Anyhow, so Ivy and I will both be at the White House more often. And, look, there's so many things to do here. I want to go to Washington's home, Jefferson's home, Teddy Roosevelt's home, which is a little farther away, but all these places. I went to Ford's Theater, as Ivy knows, and I love the Smithsonian museums. They're all great, and we'll be spending more time in Washington. Anyhow, Ivy, I know it was brief today.
There is a tremendous amount of history there, and that is good to learn and to experience.
It certainly is.
Politicians
All right.
aside.
Yes, ma'am. Ivy, happy birthday. Love you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Steve. Love you.
She got it. I don't know what that was. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show, and I couldn't do it without Ivy and Anthony and Brock and Sister Sarah and all of them, right? It's all true. Great team I have. Remember, only you can save America.